Now we want to learn how can we create histograms. Okay, so when it comes to creating histogram, we want to plot a single variable. So if we come in here and say histogram, because we are plotting only a single variable, right? So this formula here will only have one right variable. Okay, so in this case, let's say we are going to use the length, right? And we pass in the data, which is tooth growth. And if you run this, so here, try to expand this. So now here, you now have your simple histogram. Remember, when it comes to histograms, we only have one variable. Okay, so do not forget that. So let us also try to see how can we change things such as colors as well as the breaks. Okay, so for example, when we come in here, we want to specify the number of bins. We come in here and say breaks. Let's say we set this to 20. So you observe now we have set the number of bins. So we have controlled the number of bins in this histogram. Okay, so what about the color? So if you come in here, you can also add your own color to this histogram. Let's say you say blue. So you observe it just changes the color for the whole histogram. Okay, but if you come in here and you pass in a vector, say you also add red. So let's say you also add red. Okay, so let's see parentheses. Okay, so what you see now is that if you pass only two colors, right, it means that these two colors will be repeated until the end of the pass. So that is what we are seeing here. Okay, so it just depends on how do you want to visualize your histogram. Okay, so we have also used breaks in order to change the bins. Okay, don't forget that we specify breaks. In this case, we used 20. Okay, so we can also come in here and as usual, we add the X labels, which is the length. Okay, then you can also have your Y labels, which represents the total percentage. Okay, so if you run this and you can add your main and say this here is a histogram with lattice package. So this here is a histogram using lattice package. Okay, so we have looked at how can we change color. We have looked at how can we add the X labels as well as the Y labels. Following, we want to see how can we create a lattice histogram with density. For a histogram with density, you will simply have to set the type argument to density. Okay, so this type argument, you will have to set it to density. And if you run this, we have seen how can we create a histogram with density. Now, let's say you want to group by a certain variable. So how can you do that? So if you come in here and you come in here and say, for example, you want to group by supplement type. Okay, so you come in here and you provide that variable. So I'm going to remove this density and let's run this. So now you have created these two histograms grouping by this variable in multiple panels. Okay, so now that is how you can play around and create histograms using the lattice package.